Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar for today. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Wherever you are, we hope you're having a lovely week. So, before we start, my name is Kyla, and I am InUni's content specialist. I'll be assisting in today's webinar. So today we will take a closer look at the F-1 student visa process, a helpful guide designed for both students and parents. We'll walk you through the key foundations every applicant should understand, from preparing essential documents to knowing what to expect on the day of the interview. So we'll also dive into practical strategies for mastering the F-1 visa interview, helping you feel more confident, informed, and ready for your study journey in the US. And then we will also answer your questions at the end of this webinar. So, just a few housekeeping rules before we begin. Please know that this session is being recorded and a link to the recording will be shared with you right after this session. Also, we do encourage you to ask questions throughout this webinar, even at the start, using the Q&A box on the lower center of your screen. Our speakers will address as many as possible during the session, and we'll follow up via email for any questions we don't get to. And to give you the most accurate insights and practical guidance, we're joining today by two lovely speakers, who have firsthand experience with the F1 process and who work closely with international students as well. Let's take a moment to introduce them. Okay. First up, we have Saule. Hello, Saule, our operations and compliance manager at InUni. Saule oversees the development and implementation of process and compliance frameworks across the organization. With a focus on efficiency and continuous improvement, she streamlines workflows, ensures regulatory alignment, and supports the team in achieving key business objectives. Her strategic approach helps strengthen operational excellence and sustain organizational growth. Great to have you today, Saule. How are you doing today?
Very happy to be on this webinar. Thank you, Kyla, and thank you everyone for joining. Really excited to touch on these topics.
Thank you. Next up, we have Carolyn Amberger, Argo Visa, former U.S. diplomat and consular officer with over 14 years of experience at the U.S. Department of State. She has led complex strategic operations involving policy planning, negotiations, and budget management. Caroline is recognized for her strong leadership in guiding teams, fostering professional growth, and ensuring operational excellence. So her diplomatic background also and her hands-on management style have contributed to the success missions and high-performing teams across diverse environments. Thank you so much for setting aside your time to be with us today. How are you doing, Caroline?
Well, I'm doing great today, and thank you, InUni, for having me. I am very much looking forward to hearing everybody's wonderful questions and helping everybody with their journey to the United States on an F-1.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Caroline. We also have Sukanya from the InUni team supporting us behind the scenes throughout this webinar. So it's wonderful to have you all here. Now to kick things off and to set the stage for what's ahead, I'd like to invite Salve to get us started.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, and very excited to start. And I thought today we could start with a question I get the most from students, really. So, for the ones that are worried about maintaining their status once they get the visa, I get a lot of questions of when they should arrive, what are the work restrictions, etc. So, I thought we could quickly go through the main rules. I do advise to always, because even if you're applying today, your visa might be next year, depending on your student journey, or it might be tomorrow, to always double check these rules online. However, as it stands now, the arrival time is no more than 30 days before the program start date. And arriving earlier than that will result in visa denial. So you need to, as a student, plan your travel accordingly. There's also some work restrictions for an F1 visa student. So F1 visa is the student visa we're going to talk about mostly today. So students cannot work off campus without prior authorization. Violating this rule can lead to immediate termination of your visa status. Now, on-campus work is allowed, but it's limited. There's quite a few rules there. There's different sessions on that, but around 20 hours per week during the academic year. And the dependents, so the F-2 dependents, are not permitted to work on and off campus any under circumstances. Now, the campus presence is also very important. International students must be physically present in the US for their studies, even if some classes are online. Travel is allowed during school breaks, in case of family emergency as well. However, do speak with your university when you're enrolled if you do plan to travel. They will have a lot more advice than we will today on the webinar. Now, full-time enrollment is required as well. And students must maintain a good academic standard. Failure to meet academic requirements or dismissal from the university might also result in your visa termination. So that's all the tips and tricks on maintaining your visa status today. But in the next slide, if we can have it, please, we're going to discuss more about what do we do before the F-1 visa interview. And what I wanted to start with is document checklist. Now, I know for a lot of students or their parents or even sometimes agents, when you see the student journey to apply for the visa or even the document checklist, it might feel slightly overwhelming. There's quite a few phrases, words, abbreviations that in the beginning you don't know what they mean. Now, I have good news for you with the abbreviations. You won't really need to know what the abbreviations stand for. It's enough if you remember the words DS-160, I-20, SEVIS, etc. Also, another good news is that it's okay if you take it step by step. It's okay if you don't look at the whole student journey altogether and try to wrap your head around it. And that's what we're going to start doing today as well, and look at it step by step to just dissect it for a clearer understanding. So what documents you will need? I will start with a disclaimer this time. You should always check your embassy website. Some countries request additional documents brought to the interview. So always double check. But do have your passport, and we always say previous and current. If you made your application to the university with a passport and later changed it, do have both of your passports with you just in case. You will need your I-20 form. What is that? We will speak shortly. Your SEVIS payment confirmation receipt. Also, we'll check it on the next slides. And DS-160 confirmation page, we're also going to discuss briefly. You will also need your financial documents, bank statements, sponsorship letter, pay stubs, etc., and letter of acceptance. Now, my one advice that I always give to students when you do have these documents, don't just have them wrinkled in your pocket. Do have them clean, nice, and tidy. And when they are requested, do have them somewhere where you can find them quickly. Chances are you're going to be nervous. At least eliminate the unexpected and be prepared with at least your documents, the one thing that you can absolutely control before your visa interview. But if we can go to the next slide, that's when we're going to discuss a little bit more in detail what are these documents and how do they work. What I have here on the slide is the required I-20 application documents. Now, this might vary by university and usually does. So different universities will require different stages, different things to be done before an I-20 is issued. But you can expect that you will need to provide your financial documents before I-20, your immigration form, affidavit of support where applicable, enrollment fee, again, if required by the university. And after receiving your I-20, that's when you start scheduling your F-1 visa interview. And also, I want to do a little bit of myth busting here. I have a lot of questions from the students. I submitted everything. I did everything the university requires. Where's my I-20? Then I look at the student's application and they submitted everything 30 seconds ago. I-20 issuance is not an automatic process. It's people issuing an I-20. So it might take some time. While some universities issue it within 24 hours, some take a week. So it does depend not only on the university, but on the volume. If you're applying closer to the deadline, you can expect a longer waiting time. Now, if you're applying a lot in advance, the waiting time for I-20 will be shorter. So it does vary, but just a good thing to remember is that I-20 is not an automatic button press and you get it straight away. You might need to wait for it for a little bit. That does not mean you're not getting it. That does not mean something's wrong with the application. That just means that, well, the whole journey will require some patience, and I-20 is one of those parts. Now, if we can go to the next slide, please. We're going to speak shortly about SEVIS. So what is SEVIS? SEVIS is a student and exchange visitor information system. Think of it as an immigration database. It's a web-based system that monitors information for non-immigrant students and exchange visitors in US. International students typically will require an F-1 visa, and it's necessary to have an I-20 to pay the SEVIS I-901 fee. So what is this fee? So one of the biggest misconceptions I have, some students, some parents, agents think that this fee is paid directly to the university. So this fee is not paid directly to the university. It's not a university fee, and it's mandatory no matter which university in the USA you're applying for. It's currently $350 US and must be paid before the visa interview. And with this, you can go to the next document and the next slide, please, which is going to be DS-160 form. So DS-160 form, students need to complete in order to apply for the visa as well. After DS-160 application is completed and submitted, it's time to pay the non-refundable fee of $185 US and schedule the visa appointment. Again, a reminder, this is not paid for the university. It does not vary by the university. It's for any applicant applying to any US university. Once the form is completed, you must print and keep the DS-160 barcode. And you'll need to take it with you to the interview. A couple of reminders from me is that the form does take a little bit of time. It's not one of those forms where you can log in and finish it within 5 minutes. We have students that report to us that it took from 60 minutes, so from an hour to 2 hours. One advice I always give to the students, save your login details. If you do need to come back to it, that's one of the biggest mistakes I see students do. And it's such a natural thing to do, thinking, oh, I will remember my password. But then you come back to the form next day and you cannot log in and you need to start everything over and over again, delaying even more. So do save your login details. Again, the form is not short. So I would say, don't procrastinate. Don't procrastinate. I know it feels daunting, but the sooner you will complete it, the better you will feel and the quicker you will go forward. It's just in human nature to sometimes procrastinate something simple. And the more you procrastinate, the scarier and bigger the task might feel. But the sooner you complete the form, the better. Now, errors here could lead to visa refusal. So for example, mismatched dates, undeclared previous visa refusals, etc. And another advice would be students often confuse addresses here. So your home address versus mailing address, where they live in the US, etc. If you are unsure which address to put where, do feel free to reach out in Uni and we're going to help you understand which address is which. Now, once the form is submitted, you cannot edit it. You must start a new form if mistakes are found. And again, I'm just going to remind again, save the application ID and security questions. Students often lose their login details midway. It's really useful to have them ready in case you need to come back to it. So just to summarize, how do you apply for the F-1 visa? So you get to accept it to an approved university, you receive your I-20, you pay your I-901 fee, and you complete the DS-160 form, you pay all the fees, and that's when you schedule and attend your biometric screening and F-1 visa interview with necessary documents required by US Embassy, location you will visit. Now, perhaps before we go to the actual visa interview, if I could give it to Caroline, if she would like to add anything on this visa journey or on document checklist, anything perhaps, any advice you would like to give, or perhaps anything I missed with the documents.
Well, Sol, you give a lovely presentation there. I learn things too every time I watch presentations. So thank you. Just a couple of things I want to mention because I commonly saw this as a visa officer and as a consultant. Know your I-20, know what's in your I-20, know how much your tuition is and your living expenses. Officers will often ask that question. Please don't go to the interview if you've not paid your SEVIS fee. If that's not paid, the officer will automatically deny you or put you into 221G, but they will not interview if that's not paid. And you gave great information, Solly, on the DS-160. I could not have done that any better than you. But you have your documents ready, have them organized. You know, I loved how Solly said, don't have them crumpled in your pocket. There's nothing more that irritates a visa officer than you can't find the documents. So I tell my clients, have them ready in front of you, have little tabs on them so you can go straight to whatever document, whether it's your I-20, your SEVIS, or maybe your resume or your transcripts. So that is all I can add to your wonderful presentation, Solly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with this, perhaps we can already go to the part where everyone's really, really waiting and looking forward to, which is the visa interview. And Caroline, if you could start with the F-1 visa trends, what are we seeing currently in the market? What is happening?
Well, the trends have been very up and down. You can, if you look here, we've got 23 and 2023, which was, you know, close to 450,000. 24 is, you know, it was close to 40,000. 24, we, you know, this is approval and refusal rate. It's here, guys. But I would imagine that for 2025, we're going to see it nearly probably above the 500,000. And the reason that that is in 25 is officers are digging deeper on F1s. Where previously maybe a student got away with a one-word answer to a question or a half a sentence, you now have to bring your definitive A game to the F-1 visa. Officers are digging deeper and they're going to ask more questions. There is no doubt an F-1 is competitive, even more so now than before. We also, we're going to talk about this later in the slides, have the social media part. So there's a lot of variables. The best advice I can give you, and I don't want to freak everybody out with these trends, is be prepared. Use the companies like InUni. You know, talk to make sure that you get everything correct before you go for your interview. Next slide, please. And that takes us straight into understanding the requirements for an F-1 visa. So many of my clients say to me, Caroline, well, what's the officer looking for? You know, the officer didn't give me a chance to speak. The officer interrupted me. That's always common things that I, you know, navigate with my clients. But what the officer is looking for is primarily three things, and in one instance, four things. They want to know you're a credible student. And what we mean by credible student is there's an academic sense to you attending Florida State University. There's, you know, you've got to be able to talk about why you want to go there. Officers are not really looking for you to articulate about, you know, the ranking of the school, the professors in the school. They want to understand that you know exactly why you want to study there. So that is really important. If I can't say anything else to everybody, know your curriculum, know what you're going to study, and be able to answer the officer. Does a financial plan make sense? Officers have a due diligence. We have to know you've got the funding to attend the course you want to attend. Are you, you know, if it's mum and dad paying, they want a fully planned answer. They want to make sure that you know exactly what your funding is. So one of my favorite sayings is know your numbers and be able to articulate them to the officer, especially also if you have a loan. Nothing wrong with a loan. Many people have had loans to go to school. So, but just know how to articulate to the officer how you're going to pay for your tuition and living expenses. And again, the home ties. Home ties you can show from the beginning. Officers can ask, what do you plan to do when you graduate? Please, please, please do not say OPT or CPT. That will not be regarded as a plan when you graduate, and I can't emphasize that enough. You have a firm plan. For example, well, when I return to my home country, I plan to use my degree and the experience from the US to look for a position in XYZ company, but have a solid plan, because that is your ties, and the NIV, it is a non-immigrant visa. It is expected that you will return home. Next slide, please. Strengths and weaknesses. You know, you are the only person that knows your strengths and weaknesses. We can help you, navigate through this as consultants. We can work with your strengths, which is good opportunities in your home company for when you graduate, a clear vision, a plan of goals. Don't just say to the officer, well, I'm going to work when I get home. That's not going to really fly for the officer when you graduate. They want to hear that you have a concise and targeted. Now, plans change. Nobody's, going to check in 10 years if you did exactly what you said you were going to do, but have a concrete plan. Know what plan is, because that is your tie, one of your ties to the home country. Acceptance to a good university. Know about the university. Why did you choose that university? Officers will often ask, how many universities did you apply to? I have often asked the question, obviously, how many universities did you apply to? If a client says to me, well, I just applied to one university, I kind of want to know why you applied to just one university. What was special about that university? And it's not only if you get a scholarship. Remember, we need to know the academic sense of why you want to study there. Previous international travel is good. It means you've come home after you've traveled, so another tie. But many young students that graduate straight from school haven't really traveled that much. But, just be open and honest with the officer. If you've not traveled, you tell the officer, I've not traveled. Remember, that's not the issue that's going to get you your visa. What's going to get your visa, if you follow that you're a credible student, you have the financial resources to study, you have your ties to your home country. So that's what the officer is looking for. Weaknesses, having family in the US, but be open about your family in the US. Well, my sister is studying at Texas State University. She is doing XYZ degree, and she'll graduate XYZ. You hear a lot of XYZ here from me, guys. It's just, that's like fill in the blanks. But talk about your family, and please, if you have family in the United States, put them on your DS-160. That is the biggest red flag to an officer. If we ask the question, well, do you have family in the United States? And you start telling us about granny, granddad, sisters, and we're looking at the DS-160 thinking, why are these individuals not on the DS-160? Which goes back to what Sally said, make sure you know your documents, make sure you know what's on your DS-160 if you've not completed it yourself. Next slide, please. There are no set questions. Every interview is different. From the moment I ask you as a visa officer, why do you want to study at the University of Texas? You would say, I would wait to hear an answer of why you academically want to go there, what you're going to be studying there, what brought you. Now, you're going to have less than probably 2.5 minutes for your visa interview. It's very fast. I tell my clients, don't waste time giving irrelevant answers. And the other thing I'm going to mention here, and I will probably through this another time through this, is don't be scripted. You cannot be scripted. Don't watch the videos. I mean, Argo's got great videos on there, but you can't parrot. We know officers are smart. We know that when you're scripted. We can tell right away. Be yourself, be natural, and tell your story. Tell the story about yourself to the officer. Our intent is to understand your intentions in the US. Why do you want to study there? Why do you want to go there? What do you plan to do when you graduate? And always, please, again, I'm parodying Solly here, make sure your documents are always up to date. Constantly check US websites, embassy websites. Things change rapidly, and there may be additional documents asked for. Argo has, we work on mock F1 interviews. We've got officers that have worked in the field, we know exactly how to get the best out of you, to answer the officer, and, to tell you about what red flags that we see. So this is what we do as officers. Once upon a time, we were the person interviewing on one side of the window, and now we want to help you navigate what is sometimes a minefield going through an F-1 interview, like any other interview, B-1, B-2, O-1s, you name it. Nothing is assured, and please don't be scripted. I can tell somebody who's scripted the minute you open your mouth to me at the window when I ask you a question. Next slide, please. Preparing for the interview. This is my favorite. I love this. I was born to talk about prepare for an interview. Please have your financial documents, your tuition, your living expenses, and your sponsors. Sponsors are not anything to be feared of. As a consultant, I hear, oh, well, Caroline, my auntie's going to sponsor me. Well, be able to talk about your aunt, be able to talk about what job does, what her annual income is, bring along your sponsor letter, bring along your financial documents. Know how this is going to be paid for. If you have a loan, please make sure you can talk about the loan. Officers are digging deep right now on loans. They want to know, when is the loan due to be paid? Are you paying interest in the United States when you're studying? Because if you're paying interest, that's a cost above your tuition and living expenses. So the officers want to make sure, because quite a number of the loans do have interest payments due when you're studying. So if it's a loan, bring your documents, bring the information. Motivation, show some passion. I love it when I see a client on the window who is really excited about going to a university. Tell me why you went there. For example, if you're doing a degree, I remember one particular student I worked with was going to do robotics. They told me everything about why they had received an award in robotics. They chose this university because of the curriculum, the plan there, and they showed passion. So be passionate about what you're going to study. When you go to the window, try not to wear the t-shirt and jeans and the hoodie. I would recommend being nicely dressed. Ask your mama or your grandmother, do you look presentable? They're usually the best people to tell you. Be on time. And again, as both Sauli and I have said to you, be prepared with your documents. Living in the US, I've often, saw the student, where are you going to live? What's your plans? Are you living on campus? Are you going to be renting a room? So be prepared to know, where you plan to be for that 3 years you're in the United States. Ties to your home country, plans after your studies. We've covered that quite extensively so far. Have a plan. Institution details, you've got to know where you're going, The officer is not really going to dig into wanting to know much more than what your academic reason is going here. But, if you've just graduated and you're going to school, talk about, you've got a bachelor's, what's your bachelor's in? If you've done any volunteer work, you've done any internships in the field of study, please mention that too. That's all important. And put that on your DS-160 too, because that is really important to show that officer why you have chosen this plan of study. If you are a student who's a little older, who has graduated, gone to work, be able to articulate that. If you're going for a master's in computer science and your work has been in computer science, take along your resume, connect the dots, just connect everything to why you want to go to this particular university. Personal details, work and study history. What's unique about you? Think about, what have I done? What path has led me to want to do this degree in the United States that's going to benefit me when I return home? If you've traveled, make sure you talk about, when the officer asks, have you traveled internationally before, and be able to answer those questions. I will tell all of you, as I do most people, we never see your DS-160 before you come to the window. And it seems to think that, I've heard that, we have read everything. It's not possible for us. You don't know what officer you're going to get. It's random. We don't see your DS-160 until when you come to the window, we ask you for your appointment letter and your passport. The barcode on your appointment letter is the first time we see your DS-160 when we scan it. But we are really good at reading it in 30 seconds. We don't miss much as officers. Next slide, thank you.
That's very interesting. If I may ask a very quick question, we
Sure.
always say be on time, but what does being on time actually mean? Should they be, should students be about 10 minutes early or even half an hour early or exactly on time? What would be your advice?
Well, if you're going to a big embassy, you've got to get through security, and that's going to take some time. So if you're going to a small embassy or a small consulate or what I call a visa mill, I mean, my first tour was in the Philippines in Manila, which was a huge visa mill. It took people a long time to get through. I would, you've got a lot running on this. If it's a busy embassy, be there at least an hour more in time. Waiting and being calm and confident is much better than being late and stressed, because half a visa interview is your confidence in being able to talk with this officer. But if it's a quieter embassy consulate, you get through security quite quickly. But remember, once you do get in there, for those who have never gone for an interview before, once you do enter the consulate or embassy, you will be in process by local members of staff who'll check your passports and your DS-160. Give yourself plenty time. Again, you're the best judge of that. But if you set your alarm clock, get up early, because this is a big day for you and you want to be calm for it. So make sure 1 hour, 2 hours. Quite often people chatter about, how long it took them to get through to get their interview. So just watch for those things, but don't be late, because when you're late, that leads to stress, and that usually leads to mistakes at the interview.
Wonderful.
Thank
Thank
you for the
you.
question, Solly.
All right.
Next
And with
slide, please.
this, yeah,
Oh,
thank
sorry,
you.
Solly.
I was just about to ask you to tell us about the common interview mistakes.
Here we go. Not enough research. Again, I feel like a broken record. I repeat myself. If you know nothing about why you want to study in the United States, the officer's going to know that in the first question. They're going to, at that point, remember, we base our questions on how you respond to us. So an officer is not in the business of finding a way to give you a visa. And I know that sounds cruel. We officers are not going to pull all the answers from you just so we can give you that visa. This is up to you to tell us why you deserve a visa, why you are a credible student. So if you know nothing about your study program, the country you plan to study in, the university you're going to, that's probably the reason you get 2 questions and a denial. The officer's going to stop. The other thing is not knowing your financial documents, but you really do have to know why you chose this university, why you're interested in it, and why you're committed. What's your journey? I love it when it says, what's your educational journey? Tell us your story. Everyone's story is unique. Next slide, please. Low levels of research. As I do remember more than once, I've had a client who told me that they wanted to go to this university because it was a really good university for parties. That is an honest answer I really once got at the window. At that point, I think they got one more question and were denied. But that's not the kind of thing. Is if you can't tell us about facility, resources, notable features of the university, I have often asked, well, what have they told you about the campus building? I often have asked somebody that I know is borderline, that I don't believe has really researched the university, what's your favorite subject going to be? You have no idea how many people have never been able to answer that question. We're trying to make sure you're a credible student, that you're going there for the purpose of study. Remember, again, I'll repeat, it's a non-immigrant visa. We train visa officers to look for immigrant intent, to which we are very well trained at, and aware of where the university is located. So you know about your university, so you could answer any question the officer might ask you. Study program, I just covered that. Why does this study program align with your goals? Tell me. That's what I want to hear. And familiar with course content. These are the biggest things an officer won't even continue interviewing you, because officers have up to 150 people a day to interview in 4 to 5 hours. That's a lot of people. They want to make sure you hit the parameters they require as a student. And if you answer questions incorrectly, or you don't answer the question, you start talking about irrelevant things. Don't fill the silences with irrelevant conversation. There's silences, but usually because the officer is typing. If the officer cuts you off, it usually means it's not a bad thing. Don't always think it's a bad thing. It means the officer has enough information. They want to move on. But don't just keep talking. Many clients that think, I got to keep talking. Don't. Listen to the question, answer the question concisely and informative, and then wait for the next question. Country knowledge, everybody is usually pretty good with their country knowledge in the US, thanks to the television and knowing where they're going, but specifically know about why you want that location in the United States and what brought you to it. Next slide, please. Ladies, am I okay on time? Because I don't want to run out of time on you. Somebody give me a time check here. Thank you. Scripted, here we go, or generic answers. This is the worst thing I have ever heard. And everybody, I once had a client that actually wrote their answers on their arm. And I could see that why the client was looking down at the arm. They had everything written there. I've seen many people, through their nervousness, are not prepared. Confidence leads to success. If you're confident in your answers, don't give scripted answers. Don't give generic answers. For example, who's paying for your tuition and your living expenses in the United States? My father. Okay, and I'm thinking, okay, fine. I may not ask as an officer, because this is up to you to tell me information. I may not ask, what does your father do? How much does your father earn? Have you got your bank statements? A much better answer along those lines would be, well, my parents will be paying for my tuition and living expenses. My father is a government worker for 32 years. My mother is a doctor. Their cumulative salary is XYZ. We also own rental property where we get an income of XYZ. And I brought along my parents' financial documents for you to review. Isn't that a much better answer than yes, my parents? So don't be vague. Don't be impersonal. Don't give cliches. Try not to keep saying mom and sir, because when you hit that window, I want you to be confident. And I know that's easy for me to say. I want you to be at the window. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on the time. Have your documents ready. Look the officer in the eye. If you don't understand, because embassies and consulates can be very noisy when you're behind the glasses between you. If you don't understand the question, say to the officer, excuse me, I didn't hear the question. Could you repeat it? Never answer a question if you didn't understand it. Ask the officer to repeat the question. Next slide, thank you. Speaking naturally versus on script. And, this is a real big thing for me, guys. It's why you see me honing in on it, because this is in my career, I have probably interviewed over 100,000 people, probably many more in the time that I was an officer. This is the worst thing I ever saw on the window. And it's the thing that I wished I'd said to the student, just tell me, be natural with me, just answer me. There is no secret sauce, secret formula, secret sentence to getting a visa. You're the secret sentence. It's up to you to be able to talk to the officer. So if you're standing in line, don't listen to everybody being refused, if possible. Don't listen to everybody being approved and think, oh, I wasn't going to say that, but that guy was approved. Maybe I need to say that line. We know right away when you've been listening. Stay true to yourself. Vague responses on academic goals. You know nothing about the university, we're going to deny you. It's as easy as that. Weak university knowledge. Saying the university is famous. We know about the universities. We interview thousands of students. We really don't need to know the rankings and it's famous. Or the words, USA has the best educational system ever. Okay, then I'm thinking, okay, I know where this interview is going. Be concise. I selected the University of Florida for my bachelor's in computer science because, and you tell me why. and you tell me about the courses. You tell me about any hands-on experience. That's what I want to hear as an officer. If you don't know your financial documents, I can guarantee you, you will be refused. Know your financial documents. Own your interview. I know I say that a lot to my clients. Own the interview. You are your own strongest advocate in an interview. We can give you the tools, but it's up to you to put everything together. Speaking naturally, speak conversationally. Don't mumble. Don't talk a mile a minute, which I mean, don't just, I really need to talk quickly because I want to go to the school because nerves does that to you, but try and monitor how you talk. Be clear, be concise. Confidence presents that we believe you, that you're trustworthy. And again, when you're getting ready for your interview, record yourself. Look in the mirror, look at yourself and listen to your recording, because if you don't believe yourself, chances are the officer's not going to believe you. But you can hear if you're talking too quick, because sometimes I've had to say to somebody, whoa, slow down. I can't understand a word you're saying to me. But try as best you can not to be speedy, be confident, appear to that officer that you know exactly why you're on that window and why you want to go to this university. Next slide, please. If you provide false information on your DS-160, again, back to what Solly said, the DS-160 has to be accurate. Information, whether it be related to visa history, family ties in the USAA, an officer is going to notice it. It's as simple as that, guys. Know that DS-160, know what's on your I-20, know what documents you have and why you have them. Next slide, thank you. Social media vetting. I've been watching the social media vetting very closely. Open your social media, long before, about a week before you go. And as most of you probably have read or know, right now the officers, if they're going to approve your visa, will take your visa and your passport and put you into 221G for review of social media. One tip I want to give you here is if you've forgotten to put a link on your DS-160, that will be an issue. I have recommended to my clients, if you've forgotten a link, type it out. Don't handwrite it because officers can't read your writing usually. Put that in with your passport and your DS-160. And when your officer asks you for your passport and your information, say to the officer, I'm so sorry, I forgot to add a link. In my DS-160, I have written the link down here for your review. So just hand that to the officer then. Please look at your social media, be prepared for the officer to review it, because that will happen. Next slide, please. I'm watching my time here, ladies. Top challenges. Students don't know what to expect at their visa interview, or what officers are asking for you. This is why you have webinars. This is why you have the wonderful companies like InUni trying to help everybody. When you get there, the visa officer refused without giving me a chance to explain. I hear that a lot, especially as a consultant. Well, think about how you answered the questions, because usually when you leave, you can reflect back to what might have gone wrong. I can usually tell as a consultant, as can my colleagues, I can usually tell by the first question or the second question why you got refused. And usually by the end of the mock interview, you yourself can tell why you were refused. So there is so many reasons that you can be refused, but the thing is if you're well prepared, if you know how you yourself feel like you need to answer these questions, then you will be confident and you'll have a successful interview. It's confidence, 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 confidence. That is easy for me to say, but with your well prepared, you're able to answer that first question. What's the purpose of you wanting to attend XYZ University? And then if you confidently talk to the officer, look the officer in the eye, that will lead you hopefully to success on your visa. Next slide, please. How do you overcome the challenges? Prepare and practice. Use the resources that are out there. Use the resources, the webinars, understanding the requirements. Solly just did, a beautiful presentation on the requirements. Know your strengths and weaknesses. Prepare and practice. I can't emphasize that preparation's the key. That's your secret sauce. That's your secret sentence. Preparation is the key. Next slide, please. How Argo can help. How myself and we have years of experience between us. We've got very talented officers, some that I've worked with previously as an officer too. Tailored advice based on your strengths and weaknesses. We bring out your strengths. Half the time, my clients don't tell me things that I think are relevant. They forget to tell me information. I think, why didn't you tell me at the start? Let's get this in here to your response. Mock interviews, they're like the real thing. We strategize. We help you strategize. We don't script you. We're not going to tell you need to say this exact sentence, because each person is individual. We're going to help you overcome any refusals you've had. We're going to listen to your strategy. When I work with somebody and my colleagues, we listen to how you've responded to the officers. We usually can tell pretty quick, where we need to go to help you be successful the next time. Next slide. Prepare, don't memorize. Please don't memorize. Even though you do prepare, don't memorize. Use that iPhone, use the recording, talk away to yourself, start just answering the question, because you probably answer it differently, but know the substance of your answer. Know what you want to study at this particular university. Articulate how the experience will help you in your home country, and try and be natural about your answers. We do know you're nervous. We know you come to that window with a lot writing on it, but a smile, even through the nervousness and the confidence. And also, if the officer asks you the first question and your mind goes blank, which frequently happens, just say, "Excuse me, I'm a little nervous. Could you ask me the question again?" Don't worry about asking. Own your interview is what I'm saying. Try and own that visa interview. Next slide. The documents that you should bring, well, Solly went through a lot of them. Remember your transcripts, remember a resume if you've had previous work, obviously your I-20, your SEVIS, your financial documents. Don't bring copies of your transcripts. Officers usually like to see originals. What if I have a relative in the US? Well, your relative's there. They're not going away. Put them on your DS-160 and be able to answer the officer's questions about, big, yes, my aunt lives in the United States. She's lived there for 20 years. She's an American citizen. Just know about your family so you can answer the officer's questions. What should I wear? Be presentable. Put on a nice shirt, slacks. Look like your mother would be proud of you. That's the best thing I can say there. Look like your mom would be proud of you. Think about going out for Sunday lunch with family, but be presentable, be well-groomed when you go for your interview. Next slide. If you have a visa rejection, it's not the end of the world. I have issued many a visa over a rejection, because I've actually, if you are able to come back to us, as in your interview, and you're able to overcome the issues you had before. Sometimes you don't know why you were refused, but usually it's a response that didn't meet the criteria we've mentioned, for you to be approved. Be strong, be honest. Application, you're probably going to be asked the question, well, you applied for a visa 3 months ago, now you're back here applying again. What's the difference? Sometimes there is no difference. Sometimes you just have to say to the officer, I just did not articulate. I feel like I didn't do a very good job in the interview. Use your words. Use your words to say why you what went wrong, what's different in the application. Stay calm. Review your rejection slip. Not often they don't have a lot of information on there, but as soon as you leave the interview, no matter how bad you're feeling, how sad, try and reflect back to what might have gone wrong. Prepare for questions about your rejection. I just hit that because the officer will ask you that question, especially if you're going back a week later or a month later. But interviews, wait times are long right now, so that sometimes doesn't happen. And strengthen your current application. If you do wait about 6 months to a year, try doing internships, try doing volunteer work, do online classes, improve your English. Internships and volunteer work can appear on a DS-160.
Is many students treat the visa interview almost as if it's a test, almost as if there's a correct answer or correct way to deliver an answer. But in the end, it's humans speaking with humans. It's on a conversation, isn't it?
It's a conversation, and that's, you're so right, Solly. But I know how easy and I don't want to be flippant. I know how easy it is for me to say be confident, have a conversation, but it's difficult. But if you relax and you're prepared, if you have an idea of what's coming and you've worked with a response, not scripted, not memorized, you're going to make mistakes. But if we believe you're a credible student, you know why you want to go there, you have the money, you have the ties. And then the fourth thing would be you know what might have gone wrong in your previous interview, you've overcome a refusal, then you are going to get a fair, you know, a fair interview. But if you don't, if you go back and do the same thing that happened in the first interview, or, you know, I can't, hand on heart, I can't really say. It's not one answer. Sometimes it's one answer. If you can't ask, tell us why you want to go to the United States. You know, that's the whole thing, what an F-1 is. Why do you want to study there? So you need to be able to tell us. And don't use vague words like, I like the curriculum. It's got a really it's got a really innovative curriculum. I'm thinking, well, what's innovative about the curriculum? Tell me, give me the meat to the answers.
Absolutely. So we do know that students cannot be vague. It shouldn't be just yes, no answers or one sentences. But is there such thing as an answer too long?
An answer too long is usually that you just keep talking just for the sake of talking. I mean, Solly, I could put, if I asked you, why do you want to go to the university, University of Florida, and you tell me, you know, you tell me you've got your preparation. I want to I want to attend this university because you can always lead into it if you've got a bachelor's or you've got previous experience. But it's a concise answer. The officer is typing the whole time. For those of you who've been to the interview, the officer's typing the whole time, but you don't need to fill the silence with irrelevance. And irrelevance is like a runaway train. When I'm thinking to my client, okay, stop, that's enough, here. And then, when we work with people, it's like, listen to yourself, record yourself. If you're talking nonsense, stop doing it. Answer the question, be targeted, be concise, and be informative.
That answers it. Thank you so much. Now, we spoke a lot about students being genuine and giving non-scripted answers, but I can see in the Q&A section, and also our students sometimes ask, when there's thousands of students interviewed and every officer interviewed so many students, how do you prepare an answer that still doesn't duplicate another student?
Well, again, I will, oh, thank you. I got a nice compliment there. I just saw it caught my eye there. Thank you very much. But that's when I said to you, don't be listening to what's going on in the lines. There's no secret answer. The officer's going to ask you, I want you to simplify it. Everyone who's listening to this webinar, simplify it. Don't overthink it is the other thing I want to mention. If you can tell that officer why you want the three criteria I gave you, credibility, money, ties, and a previous refusal, what's different? It's not, every answer is the same, but you're not all going to the same university. You're all going to a different university. The curriculum's different. Your degrees are different. Your aspirations, your goals, your hopes, your dreams are different. And that's your story that you need to tell the officer in less than 2.5 minutes. And eye contact's great. Don't be looking all over the room because then the officer's thinking, what's going on here? But I know by sounding scripted, but remember early on I said, show the passion, show there's nothing better at a windows for a visa officer than I'm watching somebody and listening to somebody that really knows why they want to do this, that really has firm plans and a great desire. And you can do that. Each of you are different.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Now, one of the questions in the Q&A section, although we touched upon it slightly, a student, I assume, is saying, what if I am too afraid to say the wrong thing and I rather memorize a text and act it out as if it's mine? Now, I personally would say actors are paid that much for a reason. It's not that easy to act out, but Caroline, would you add anything here?
If it's if that's how you're feeling, again, you need some help. Either from, reach out to, if you're working with companies like Uni, I'm sorry, I'm slipping my words there. That's my accent coming out there. Sorry for that, lady. But reach out to people for help. That's the one time if you just can't get away, because I can guarantee you, if you're scripted or memorized, you're going to be denied. So that's when you really need some help if you can't. Now, not everybody can afford the help, and I understand that. Watch that, there's tons. Argo has great officers giving great information. Don't memorize what they're doing. Again, I'm going back to that, but listen to different people. Listen to the different officers that are talking about how to apply for your F-1 and take what's best out of what they're advising that fits with you. But if you do memorize or you are scripted, I'll guarantee you will be denied. Prepare, try and prepare any way you can.
Absolutely. Now, there's an interesting question about documents. Can I bring extra mandatory documents to explain my situation, or will that just make the visa officer angry?
Well, it's better being over-prepared than under-prepared. Quite often people will bring more documents than they need. You know what the crucial ones are. So make sure you're not kind of shuffling and everything falls on the floor. Or I do love some of these things, don't have them in your pocket. Have everything arranged in a nice folder. We notice those things that you're prepared. You need your I-20, you need your SEVIS, you need your transcripts. Have everything ready, but if you're meaning like land documents or rental information or tax records or pay stubs, remember officers, when they need to know your parents or who's ever going to be providing your tuition and living expenses, remember they're looking at tangible money too, what's available. That comes into the family. But yes, you can bring what, if you're nervous, but don't bring everything. You know what the critical documents are. Just, again, don't overthink it too much.
And I guess if you're bringing a massive amount of documents, know which one is which one, so you wouldn't be fiddling for half an hour looking for the correct one.
And the key, remember, is that officer, your interview is going to be less than 3 minutes. And that officer is looking for key things during that interview.
Wonderful. Now there's another question. So a student is saying, I understand I need to put my relatives living in the US on DS-160 form, but what about my husband's brother and his family? So husband's family living in US.
I'll answer that 2 ways. If your husband or wife are coming with you in an F2, then it's going to they'll be filling in their own F2. Okay, but if you're married, then they're your relatives too. And I would recommend putting them on the DS-160.
Wonderful. And what is the best time to book a visa interview?
That's
That's a
easy,
very
whenever you
broad
can get an
question.
appointment.
That's a very broad question, isn't
Yeah.
it?
I mean, if you're in some countries, you're waiting a very long time, as we know right now. So the time is when you're ready. But watch the visa wait times, especially if you have a start date. You need to be really watching the websites, how long it is to get a visa interview. But be prepared, be ready for your interview.
Right. And do visa officers actually check my social media? Should I delete anything before my interview?
I think the answer to that is yes, they are checking social media, because students are being denied too. They're being told at the window, your visa will be approved subject to review of social media, and then a couple of days later there's a 214B letter. Be very serious about your social media. Only you can tell. Make sure your social media is very bland, for want of a different word, just me. Yes, I'm going to answer that. This is very important.
Wonderful. And there's a similar question related to this one, actually. Do students need to present the social media link or just the name of their account?
Okay, put your link, give the officers information. Don't make it hard for them. Making it hard for them is never, because you remember these officers, this is a new thing they have to do. They can't do it at the window. They don't have time. They're reviewing social media after the interview. Make it easy. Give them the information they need. Don't hide anything.
Wonderful. And that will help with the 3-minute slot as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And it gets you your visa faster. Think about it that way. I mean, I've seen some DS-160s and I'm thinking, whoa, this is a lot of social media on here. But you've given everything. But remember, if you forget something, do what I did mentioned in the beginning. Just type it out, hand it to the officer and just say, I'm so sorry. I admitted this. It was purely by mistake when I filled in the DS-160 and I want you to have the link.
Wonderful. That's actually very helpful. And there's an interesting question. Is there a way to find out the exact reason for a visa refusal?
Well, you can claim a Freedom of Information Act, but you're not going to find out very much. But probably the answer to that is no. You're the best guide as to why you may have been refused. Officers don't have to tell you. We usually just give you a 214B letter. Normally it's ties. Sometimes it's weak links to stronger links to the US than their home country. But mainly remember, again, think, did I credibly say why I wanted to go to this university? Do I have enough money for this? And do I have strong ties to my home country? That's what we're looking for.
Absolutely. There's quite a few questions about social media today, and one of them is, well, quite frank one. If I'm a social media person, so I understand perhaps an influencer, will that affect a visa decision?
Well, again, I'll repeat what I have done. Your social media will be looked at by the officers. You need to make sure that your social media is not showing anything that could be adverse, that, they're looking at political, different things. Only you know what's in your social media. If your mother, let me put it this way, if your mother and grandmother would approve of your social media, that's probably the best thing. But it is being looked at and it is being reviewed. I think you all don't need me to tell you that. I think there's plenty of blogs with information going on around about that.
Absolutely. And someone's asking, is that just my social media being checked or the sponsor's social media too?
It's okay. It's just your social media at this point. I don't think there'll be enough officers in the world. It's your social. It's you. To the best of my knowledge, every case is different, but it's usually just your social media. There's no space on the DS-160 for all your sponsors' social media too.
Wonderful. I think we answered quite a few social media questions. So let's go to the ones where students seem to be asking a lot of questions about financial documents. So there's one case, an interesting one, and I'll read it out. Apologies. My school requested 3 months old bank statement for my I-20. After I received my I-20, I'm preparing for my visa interview. Do I use the same statement I submitted to my university, or will I need to bring updated bank statements?
You have to be updated. You can't bring. Sometimes officers like to see 3 months. Some like to take 6 months. Don't take what you sent to university, because that could be 3 months later. The officer's looking at what money's in the bank at this current time.
Wonderful, thank you. Now there was one question. I lost it in the line now, but I definitely saw a question, somebody asking, how can I explain a lump sum being transferred to my account just before the interview?
It's not always a great thing that, because the officers will notice that. Whatever the reason is, you put the lump sum in, tell the officer what that reason was.
So again, honesty is what
The best
is the best
policy.
policy still. Yes,
Mhm.
exactly. Thank you. Um, that's an interesting question. Is it always 214B refusals? Or are there different type of refusals for F1 visa students?
Well, there's 214B and 221G. 221G is administrative processing, where you may be asked for further documents for the officer to review, or it could just mean that something needs reviewed before the officer's willing to make an approval or a denial. And usually the officer will give you a 221G letter with what they require you to submit through email. The other 214B is a straight denial. There's no appealing to that.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Um, Another interesting question. I'm reapplying after a visa rejection. Is it better I apply to the same university or try with another university?
There's no, I see that a lot. Now, a good reason you might apply to another university is you've got a scholarship. You didn't have a scholarship in the first university, but the other university. But if you think changing university is going to get you the visa, that's not going to be the case. I mean, unless there's a good reason. The first thing is that I'm going to say is, well, you applied to, because we have case remarks from your previous interview we're reading. You previously applied to XYZ university. Now you're applying to this university. Why did you change universities? You have to give me a credible, or the visa officer, a credible reason. But if it is scholarship, that's very understandable. Or if you feel like you had time in the 6 months you waited for another interview, you further researched the universities and you felt this university was a better match for your goals and your career, tell the officer that. That we understand.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Um, what can we say about our future plans instead of saying OPT? A very specific question from the audience.
Well, I can't tell you all what to say, because all of you are doing different things. But think back to the PowerPoint and what I previously said. When the officer asks you, what do you plan to do when you graduate, or what are your goals for the future, you decide what your goals and what your plans are for the future, and make sure that you're able to convey that to the officer.
Well, I think there's quite a few questions in the Q&A section asking, how do I answer this question? How do I answer that question? And I think all of them have the same answer. You answer them with your own research, your own thoughts, your own motivation, and your own personality. And whatever you do, you don't try to answer by somebody else's words.
I mean, remember, don't sound scripted, don't sound memorized, sound like yourself. Try. We are really good. Officers are well trained. We really do know when we hear that, and that is for us a denial. So just believe in yourself, believe in you, believe in yourself. I often say to my clients, do whatever it takes in that line. Have a magazine, or have a book in your hand so you don't listen. Do deep breathing, deep breathing, a mantra, anything that keeps you calm, because focusing on everything that's happening on the windows to other people is usually shakes your confidence. I usually say,
Wonderful.
stay in your own head. Hopefully people understand, stay inside your own head.
Don't try to go into somebody else.
No, that never works.
Wonderful. Now, there's still some questions coming about social media, so I'm going to come back to that topic for a moment. There's a question, when and at what time visa officers look at the social media? Because you mentioned that they go through the DS-160 at the time of the interview, and there's only 3 minutes.
They do afterwards.
They do
Whatever.
after.
Every embassy and consulate's different, but the officer will have their own timing when they review all their F1s. They'll probably review everything together, everybody together.
Right. And for those students that always kept their social media channels private, should they make them public or can they stay private?
Nothing can stay private. If you have a social media link, you have to put it on your DS-160 and you have to open it. Because if you don't open it and you say to the officer at the window, I'm not opening it, you will be denied.
And another very specific question, if they're checking my social media, will they ask to check my WhatsApp messages?
No, but sometimes CBP do that when you cross the border if they, if they think, but normally no.
Right.
But then
And
again, if you're applying for a visa, applying for an F-1 visa, be very conscious of everything you're doing.
that's a good advice as well. Thank you very much. Now, I know we already touched upon it on the presentation, but I see not one, not two, but almost 5 questions again asking to reiterate. What's the dress code?
Okay, we're back to mom and grandma again. Um, um, be nicely dressed. Button down shirt, polo shirt, ladies, um, with nice slacks or look like a very professional student. Uh, but try not to go in with the holes in the jeans. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm not saying that. But don't go in a t-shirt, with your Led Zeppelin t-shirt. Oh, that's aging myself there. T-shirts and, looking like you just rolled out of your bed an hour ago. Be presentable. Ask your mother, ask your grandmother, do I look nice?
That's a very good advice. And is there anything students should never say to a visa officer?
Oh, we could be here for the next 5 hours if I go there, guys, but
First of all, don't lie.
don't lie. I'm going back to don't lie. Answer the officer's questions. Remember, your story is your story. You've got your own uniqueness. Think about yourself as a unique individual and that you are fully prepared and that you do have the answers to the officer and tell yourself, I'm going to be successful in this interview. Build your confidence.
Wonderful. I'm going to take one last question from the audience. I find this one very interesting. So, a student is saying, I am not scripted. I am preparing. I am doing my research. What if still a question comes up that is provocative or unexpected? What should you do?
Well, always be ready for the unexpected, but some officers do. When I prepare a client, and I know my colleagues at Argo do this, we don't sometimes prepare you for every question because I want to see how you think on your feet. I'm going to prepare you for these questions I know that are coming, the standard questions, but I'm also going to listen to how you answer me because something might trigger me to ask something. But, be prepared for the unexpected. But again, I know I'm repeating myself, just answer the officer's question. There's a reason they're asking you the question. It might have been something that triggered in your response, but be prepared for the unexpected and be prepared, yourself just to answer the question honestly. When you start going down that rabbit hole, as I call it, of being overthinking this, it's what's going to add to your nervousness. Be confident. If the officer, and it's great when I consult, and I do, after I prepared somebody, after I worked with them, we talk strategy, and then we do an actual mock interview where I don't talk all the time, which is hard for me because I like to talk. But I'll just ask a random question to my client and they answer it fine because you're confident and you're prepared.
Wonderful. And I think as Caroline also mentioned in her presentation, there are no set questions. So by theory, all questions should be the unexpected ones,
Yeah.
really. And at the
Yeah.
same time, if you are scripted, an unexpected question will very quickly throw you off
Yeah.
guard. But if you're not scripted and you're just being yourself, that's when unexpected questions shouldn't really hinder you, but would make you excited to speak about yourself,
Yeah.
about your plans, about
Oh, I love that.
everything, about your
And
motivation.
and remember, the unexpected is related to you. It's not related to anybody else but you. So an unexpected question, like Solly beautifully said, you should be able to answer it. It's about you.
It's about you. Exactly.
Mhm.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Caroline. I believe we're already running over time with the webinar, so I will ask just the very last question from me, if you don't mind.
Yes,
If you
my
could give,
pleasure.
if you could give any advice for students about to get into a visa interview, any one advice, what would it be?
You know, believe in yourself. You are the conduit. You are the person that's going to convince the officer. We've talked about don't be scripted, don't be memorizing, be calm, be ready for the unexpected, but believe in yourself, because if you believe in yourself, the officer will believe in you. So that's about, I know that sounds like a canned answer or like a little thing you put on a bumper sticker, but if you do believe in yourself, that officer will believe in you. And I wish everybody the very best of luck. And it's been my pleasure. I'd stay on here all day, but I know everyone has to go. But I do believe webinars that InUni is putting on you, these are so, so, so crucial to being able to hear from a visa officer who's walked the walk and, been interviewing for years, such as I have for, nearly 16 years, actually. But believe in yourself. If you believe in yourself, the officer will believe you.
Thank you so much for your answer. It was an absolute pleasure having you on this webinar today, and I will give it back to Kyla, our marketing representative. Kyla?
Thank you very much, Saleh and Caroline. I hate to cut this short because we're all really invested and enjoying. So we've gone beyond the allotted time. So thank you very much, everyone, for staying. We truly appreciate your time and for being so engaging. It made today's session really incredible and productive and meaningful. A special thank you as well to our speakers for today, Caroline and Saleh, again for your expertise and insights. Your guidance has certainly helped clarify the F-1 visa process for many of us today. We're very excited for the next one, actually, so we hope to invite you again.
Oh,
For
I'd be
everyone,
my pleasure.
we are really looking forward to that. So, for everyone who joined us, we hope today's discussion has given you more confidence as you move forward with this, your study plan. So, once again, thank you very much for being a part of this webinar, and we look forward to supporting you in your journey ahead. In the meantime, take care and have a wonderful day. Bye, everyone.